me too fast. I'm old. I'm old. So what am I known for? Yes, ma'am.
Author.
I'm an author. Correct. But a whole lot of people are authors.
You were the first black.
I was the first black. Well,
Author.
American Negro. American Negro. I'm credited with being the first American Negro to write a novel and a play. In 1853, I wrote Clotel on the President's Daughter, where I lent imagination that Thomas Jefferson fathered children with his slave. Now, I know you can't believe that that happened, but I wrote about it in 1853. I traveled around with the different abolitionist societies and talk about the evils of slavery. Now, we've got some white brothers that are abolitionists too, but they can't talk about slavery like me and Frederick. Y'all know Frederick Douglass, don't you? They can't talk about it like me and Frederick. Because we experienced slavery. We went through it, Pastor. We know something about it when we talk about it. Usually when a teacher invites me in to talk to their classroom, they've read some of my books. They've read it and they asked me to come in and talk about slavery. Because if you read any of my books, it's going to deal with how I perceive slavery. There, I was born, I think Mr. Simon said I was born in 1814 or 50. Can't be too sure of the dates because slaves' births weren't kept very well. But it's usually according to the planting season or how much it rained that year or, what kind of crops we grew. But my mother told me that I was born in 1814 down the road in Lexington, Kentucky. And I believe my mother. Did your mother tell you when you were born? Yeah. Okay, well, and you believed it, didn't you? Well, I believe my mother. Now, my master, Dr. Young, didn't need to purchase me. I was born to him because my mother was a slave of his. My mother was named Elizabeth. She had 7 of us. Solomon, Leander, Benjamin, Joseph, Milford, little Elizabeth, and myself. No 2 of us had the same father. In fact, my mother told me that my father was a relative of my master, Mr. George Higgins. So I guess you can kind of say, I'm a member of the Young family. Yeah. Well, anyway, after around the age of 2, my master wanted to follow the westward expansion, and we moved to Missouri. So I really don't remember that much about Kentucky. We moved about 40 miles outside of St. Louis. We had a house in front and the slave quarters in the back. Even though I'm a member of the family, slave quarters in the back is where I reside. My master had 45 slaves. 45 slaves. 20 of them, or 20 of us, were house servants. 25 were field servants. Now, I didn't do this. We were born into what you call chattel slavery. Students, what does the word chattel mean? There you go, popping that answer. Yes, ma'am. Property. Yeah, the slavery that existed on our United States shores treated us as if we weren't human. Property, I like to explain it as livestock. Like you would a goat or a pig or a cow, a horse. Anything that looked human couldn't be applied to us. Do you ever go to the wedding of Mr. Cow, Mr. Bull and Mrs. Cow? You get the invitation in the mail and showed up for their wedding and showed up for their 30th anniversary. Can you tell me where Mr. Cow, Mr. Bull and Mrs. Cow are buried? You can't. Because they were just property. Livestock. That's how we were treated. If you had my skin and my blood, you were basically livestock. So when my master said we want to move, do you think he consulted with us about moving to Missouri? You want to go to Missouri? No. Because we were his livestock. So we traveled to Missouri and we had the house and 45 of us and we have what we call an overseer. What's an overseer? Now, I know y'all know. Don't be shy. Yes.
Like a boss.
A boss. Right. They ruled over us. They had what they called a Negro whip. Now, a Negro whip had an end on it about 3 to 4 feet long with lead in the base of it. That's the handle. And then it had a slash around 6 to 7 feet long that was made of cowhide with wire planted on the end of it. And whenever a slave didn't do what they were supposed to do, they would experience Negro whip from the overseer. Now, I get kind of emotional about this when I tell about it, because it involves my mother. My mother was a field servant, and she had to be up at the ringing of the bell at 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock in the morning. And I can remember this day just like it was yesterday. I'm in my bucket sleep because I'm a house servant. I don't get until 4:30. And all of a sudden I hear, pray, please, sir, I won't do it anymore. I don't do it anymore. And then I heard every crack of that whip against my dear mother's back. 10 times they whipped my mother. I heard it cease. I climbed back in my bucket. All I could do was cry. I couldn't go out and take care of her. All I did was cry. And you know, it wasn't even daylight. 4 o'clock in the morning. What's a slave going to do at 4 o'clock in the morning? My mother told me that she was whipped for nursing me because she wasn't on her post. Does that make sense? I work for Elijah P. Lovejoy. Have you ever heard of Elijah P. Lovejoy? I asked that one, and I usually get the same thing, Pastor. It's kind of like in a sermon. You ask the question, they go, right? Elijah P. Lovejoy, he became an abolitionist. Now, he wasn't an abolitionist when I worked for him. Now, you've heard of John Brown, right?
Yes.
John Brown? John Brown's body lies a smoldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a smoldering in the grave. John Brown's body lies a smoldering in the grave. His soul is marching on. Now, you've heard of him. Led the insurrection, and the story goes that they captured him, hung him, cut the rope, and buried him with the rope still tied errands and things. People said, you learned how to read and write. No. I was still a slave. If somebody was caught teaching me how to read and write, they would have suffered a punishment. But I worked for him, and after a while, he had a religious experience and became an abolitionist. And he moved his printing press from the St. Louis side across the water. And they came in, they were mad at him for printing this abolitionist material, and they were going to destroy his printing press. And he stood in front of his printing press, and they killed him. One of the first martyrs for the movement. And then they put his printing press in the river. Elijah P. Lovejoy. I got to get some help. I got to get some help. So it was a path, and there were some logs, and I hid behind the logs. And a gentleman came up in a buggy, in a wagon. And I said, no, he's not the one. And then another one came up on a black horse, and I was up, and he got by me. And then there was this older man walking a white horse, kind of like he was doing it for exercise. And I went up to him and I said, I need some help. And he said, are you a runaway? Oh, what do you say? He's a white man? I've never trusted a white man before. None of them have ever been kind to me. What do you say? But you know, I needed some help. He asked me again, he said, are you a runaway? I said, he said, I'll help you. You stay here. This is a pro-slavery area. So I went back and hid. Now can you imagine what that time felt like? I know it wasn't that long, but it felt like eternity to me. I mean, was he going to get help? I mean, if I got in the wagon, where was he going to take me? I've already told you, and before I be a slave, I'll be married. I'm free. No more Negro whip. No more overseeing. What's this old man going to do to me? I waited up. He showed back up in a buggy, hid me in the back of the buggy, and took me to his house. Now I'm scared again. His little wife came out, had a kerchief on her head. I found out they were Quakers. Invited me in, had a table full of food. She told me to sit here. I said, no, ma'am, I got to go to the kitchen. She said, no, you sit here. Set me there. Fixed me a place by the fire. Bought me some boots. Got me an overcoat. Fixed me up some clothes for my journey. And then the old man says, what shall we call thee? I said, well, I had told you that my master had a nephew when I was about 10 years old, infant, came to live with us, and his name was William. So they just changed my name to Stanley. Called me Stanley for sure. I said, I want to be called William. He said, okay. And then he said, thee, a man, must have two names. I said, well, I don't want to be called Young, because slaves take the names of their masters, right? Young, Higgins, my father, Will I, Price. So I said, since you have treated me with such kindness. I shall give thee the honor of naming me. He said, well, my name is Wells Brown. I shall call thee William Wells Brown. Now, what's in a name? You know, I was not only looking for my liberty, but for my name. I became a man that day. I became free that day. No more Negro whip. No more overseas. I was free. I got my coat, got my boots, traveled to Cleveland, Ohio. Went up to Cleveland, Ohio, worked at an establishment on the lake, and first wages I got, I bought an abolitionist material, a spelling book, paid for my lodging, and a piece of hard candy. And I went to the master's son and I said, tell me what this letter is and I'll give you a lick. And I learned my ABCs. I learned my ABCs. I was telling you, I was ready for a woman. I got married that year to Elizabeth Betsy Stewart, a free slave. She was free. She was free. And I married her, and I met Frederick and the other men in 1841. Frederick wrote his narrative in 1845. I wrote mine in 1847. Went to the peace conference. I was trying to get, peace conference was in France in 1849. So I was trying to get there, but you had to be human to get a passport. So I could make it to England, but I did make it over to the peace conference. And then I was going to come back to the States, but they enacted the what is that called, 1850? Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Yeah. Which was crazy, if the magistrate could prove that you wasn't a slave, he'd get $5, but if he could prove you were a slave, he'd get $10. So I couldn't come back because I already written my narrative, and Enid Price wanted his coat back. So my daughters came over there, and then I wrote my narrative. I wrote my novel and the play, and then I'd go around presenting that. And same people that bought Frederick's freedom bought my freedom. Still kicking, still enjoying life.